Deleted session, July 25, 1977. Good evening. Now, root assumptions are extremely important, for they outline the extent of your reality. They define it and confine it to certain focuses. One of the main root assumptions of your popular world has been that the future does not exist in the present. Religion deals with the idea of an afterlife again, a future event. Even those who accept reincarnation again usually believe that the past is finite and the future yet to come. In a way, the idea of past reincarnations often gives a feeling of support of past lives accomplished. The idea of future lives brings into consideration certain emotions. Man's fear of the future, for he is often afraid of what tomorrow will bring. Again, a future life presupposes death in the present one. The idea of death usually serves as an effective flag against such future explorations. As a matter of fact, as mentioned many times, the past itself is not finished. In a matter of speaking, future lives are not there as completed entities to be grasped either. It is most difficult to explain, since all lives are being creatively formed simultaneously. You do have future selves. In your turns, those selves often give you information, advice, and inspiration, planting in their own past the events that will bring about their present period. Probabilities intersect at all points, however, so that you can choose to accept such advice or not. If you do, then again, from your viewpoint, that particular next earthly life will be yours. If you do not, your next earthly life will be a different one, where, for example, the information from the future did not take, or was not given. Any life is a future one according to your framework, or any life is a past one according to your framework. It is therefore the focus of your attention that delineates your time period and provides a psychological stance from which you will then view all other selves, or all other experiences of your entity. Your world is precisely based so upon the ideas of cause and effect that precognition is frowned upon. The idea of a knowledge of future lives becomes even more frightening from a cultural, religious, and scientific viewpoint. People may have some glimmering of their own reincarnational existences, but they are patterned according to current beliefs, fleshed out by ideas from movies or history books. They need such data as a framework to hold or contain their intuitive knowledge. They do not have access to the history books of the future in the same way. They have nothing to hang that intuitive knowledge upon. The history books of the past, for that matter, are mainly fabrications. The further you are removed from so-called historical fact, the greater the fabrication, of course. The true story of identity is vastly complicated. In your terms, you do exist in the past, present, and future simultaneously. You do have an identity of your own that is never annihilated. On the other hand, there are no boundaries to that identity, so that each self is not like a definite unit, always the same. And to some extent, one self or identity cannot be equated with any other. You like to deal with classifications, so that you equate one apple with one other apple, one cat with another cat, one person with another person. The greater varieties of subjective experience, however, allow for no such easy equations. When I use the word equal, however, I am not speaking of superiority or inferiority at all. In basic terms, however, you cannot equate oneself with another self, or for that matter, one life with another life, for the subjective realities of people involve dimensions that do not show physically. Each entity, for example, is different from any other, and will seek different kinds of focuses and intents. There are vast individual differences operating there also. One entity might focus its main energy, intent, and drive in one particular Earth life, filled with incredible creativity, so that focused life becomes a central core for all other existences, the foundation and the source of energy for all other lives. This does not mean that those other lives are subordinate. Other entities might spread their creativity and focus more equally over many lives. But in all cases, the entity is simply the part of the self that cannot fit into one life alone. It is not, for example, an alien super self. When you go on a journey, you cannot take your home with you, only certain luggage. In physical life, you cannot take your entire entity with you, only the part of it that you call yourself. And you are well equipped with the proper passport and inoculated with certain root assumptions. Most people could not handle a knowledge of future lives in the present. They would always be looking for greener pastures, so to speak, and life would lose that necessary clear focus. You can try to contact future selves, however, simply by trying to do so. It is better to concentrate on the subjective reality involved. That is easier, for if successful, you will automatically tune into the future self that emerged from your present reality. You can receive quite beneficial advice in such a manner. Give us a moment. You are dealing with your father, for example, from one probability only, the one in which you knew him. As I told you once before, his main life was not here, in your terms. Ram noted, see volume first of Unknown Reality. Seth said, in the realities in which you saw him in the dream state, he was a wanderer, lonely, from your viewpoint, not his. The dreams represented your symbolic understanding that he was a loner in the probability in which you knew him, and in that guise you saw your father. You did not see his reality as a personality apart from the fact of his being your father. You did make contact, however. He could not break through your own symbols. Some of the dreams did involve other probabilities, however, in which members of your family died at different times than in your world, as with the dream involving Lauren. Ram noted, my younger brother. The relationships between people that you know cannot be amply worked out in any one given life as understood, and those relationships are fleshed out in probabilities. Some of this is almost impossible for me to explain to you, for you move through probabilities so transparently while still maintaining your identity. The past not only still exists, vital and alive, but it constantly gives forth multitudinous futures, as does your present. You each self is caught in an infinite cocoon of being from which it cannot fall, but ever emerge in changing form. If you want a better knowledge of your father's existence, then try to think of him as a being who happened to be your father, and that will free your concepts of him. Take your break. Now, when you are painting a picture and you have a good start, you do not think to yourself, I have a good start, but I will most likely ruin what I have begun. When Robert is writing and has a good page, he does not think this is fine and good, but the next page will likely be lousy, and I will never have a book. Your attitudes before and after our last session about Robert's condition can be equated, however, with precisely such uncreative and cold frames of mind. To some extent, those attitudes have been habitual, carried to extremes. Such a would-be artist or writer would never complete a painting or a book, not because of any lack of ability, but because of lack of confidence and poor mental attitudes. In the face of the belief that the painting or the book would be miserable if produced, each good sentence or artistic stroke would be the opportunity not for rejoicing but for dismay. Aha! What a fine stroke to be wasted, for the painting will surely go astray. Or what a great line thrown away, for surely no others will follow. When either of you do good work, you compliment each other. You do not say, but will that be followed up tomorrow by work as good or better? You do not say that is fine, but most likely tomorrow you will ruin what you did today. Yet such uncreative attitudes have often now hampered you in that direction of Robert's condition, so that you programmed yourself to expect disappointment. We had come along far enough, however, so that your confidence managed to straddle your momentary lapses of confidence. Robert's lapses are far more significant, of course, than your own in the entire picture. He has not noted down his improvements daily or any encouraging sensations, still because of those old fears. He has made efforts now, but the daily notes help reprogram his frame of mind. You do not always feel, say, down at the same time, so learn to encourage each other when possible. The changes in Ruber's body continue to be those exactly required, and in response to his intent and desire to be responsive. That word, again, is important. He can keep his spirits up considerably by remembering to devote 3 hours to writing, James or otherwise, but he should not lapse into worrying about his condition. He should make an honest attempt at those walking exercises. Some days he will know that his body wants to relax, but even then the walking should be attempted, for the improvements will have an opportunity to work along with the body mechanism in operation. The causes of the eye difficulties are as given. His new or old teeth are not responsible. Overall tension on the jaw has contributed, but that is lessening as the neck and the head are released. It is highly important that as much as possible he forgets the symptoms, concentrate on the improvements that occur, and take it for granted that this will continue. When I constantly say the same things, they are important. Therefore, whenever Robert is upset, I want him to return to the present nature data. This particularly applies to times when he is worrying about what might happen or how he might perform in the future. The body is significantly responding. The tension is dissolving. There is nothing wrong with his body except for the applied tensions. Anything then that encourages him to let go is beneficial. I realize that you have both been busy, and that these sessions themselves take time. Make an effort, however, at least a few times a week, to try the library together. Only a few moments are necessary to find out whether the time is auspicious or not. Give us a moment. Make an effort, Joseph, more of an effort, to compliment Rupert on his appearance. When it strikes you that he does look good, this will help reinforce his confidence. Complimentary lies do not work as a rule, and certainly I would not suggest them. When someone has been worried about their appearance, however, as Rupert has, then honest compliments, when appropriate, operate most strongly as positive suggestion. You deal in this area, as in all areas, with probabilities. Rupert's body is changing into a more or less normally flexible one. He is pulling that probability toward him. When he is beginning a book, however, he does not think this is a probable book. It becomes his book, period. That is because he does not dwell upon possible impediments and is relatively self-confident. This simply means that his self-confidence is greater than any doubts he has. In the past, his doubts about his body have greatly outweighed his self-confidence, and that is the reason for this material and that given in our last session. The oversaw 7 books are the result of a playful creativity, a free-flowing of creative impetus. As he supposes, he became worried about the Christ satire. This harks back to old concerns, but was also tied into current events and the growth of fundamentalism lately. James was serious and concerned. 7 was poking fun at religious conventions. All Rupert has to do is to tell himself again to trust the thrust of his own creativity and let himself go along with it, and there will be no problem. I will end the session unless you have questions. Ralph said, I guess not. They said, then I bid you a fond good evening, and my heartiest regards to you both. Ralph said, thank you, said good night.